good morning and welcome to Chentex Multimedia Daily Livecast coming to you from beautiful Brisbane city of Australia, streaming directly to your device. Hey, it's wonderful to have your company once again on this day. Of course, it's been very warm around Brisbane lately. Well, we have lots to talk about today, and don't forget that we have the real estate update with Usa Chandra and GlobeNet Realty in today's segment. But before we do that, let's go and take a very quick look at what the weather's doing for today. With that, let's welcome Dilraj to the show.
Good morning, everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 28 degree. Brisbane area is partly cloudy and it's a cooler day today. Wind southerly 15 to 25 km per hour. Fire danger is high. Sun protection is recommended till 3:30 and UV index is predicted to reach 11, that is extreme. Till tomorrow, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Dilraj, for that update, and it's wonderful to have your company. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know that lately there has been some issues with Facebook, so we are streaming via my personal profile page and of course through Brisbane Indian Times page as well, while we deal with this matter. And appreciate your patience while we do that, and of course thanks to everyone, and especially to Devika Maharaj for assisting us with sharing on some of the other pages. And thank you very much for everyone who have joined in and all the messages and suggestions that have been put forward. And of course, unfortunately, this is the way it is. So moving forward, right as they say, the show must go on. And the headlines for today, courtesy of ABC.
Australians to heed new restrictions and to keep getting tested if they have coronavirus symptoms as the Parafield COVID-19 cluster grows. The cluster has increased to 20 cases, with another 14 suspected due to close contact with a positive case. Those 14 people have been tested or are awaiting retesting after returning a negative result. 4,000 close contacts are now in quarantine in the state, and thousands of people have turned out to be tested, with some left waiting for hours. Meanwhile, Victoria's Health Department says it will continue to monitor flights from Adelaide, with passengers required to provide contact details and have temperature and symptom checks. Victoria, New South Wales and the ACT have stepped up screening, while WA, Queensland, Tasmania and the Northern Territory have all imposed increased restrictions on South Australian arrivals. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has signed an in-principle agreement with Japan to expand defence cooperation in what he's calling a landmark treaty. The document will define the legal framework for Australian troops in Japan and vice versa. Former Jetstar boss Jane Hrdlicka will take the reins at Virgin Australia today as the company emerges from 7 months of administration. The new owner, US private equity firm Bain Capital, paid $3.5 billion for the airline.
So that's the news update for this morning. $3.5 billion for Virgin Australia. The deal's been done. It's coming out of the administrator's hand and going under the new management. That is a good news that's coming out. Maybe it might mean that there's a little bit more travelling that could be happening very, very soon. As we know, our Prime Minister's as was mentioned in the top stories, as he's in Japan.
It may only be a 24-hour visit, but the fact Scott Morrison's flown into Tokyo during a pandemic shows how important he sees relations with Japan.
Thank you for coming. Well, I'm very pleased to see you.
This is a trip like no other.
Nice to see you too.
With social distancing and masks as a rule, most of the time. In a meeting with local business leaders, the Prime Minister focused on trade, but this time in energy.
The low emissions energy technologies of the future will be a very big part of our partnership going forward.
Australia wants to sell hydrogen fuel to Japan. We currently sell millions of tonnes of coal here, but Tokyo has committed to net zero emissions by 2050. And with the next US President Joe Biden setting the same target, experts say the mood is shifting.
I think That's something Australia is going to have to pay attention to be aware of. Otherwise, it's going to find itself perhaps a little bit isolated. And now is not the time to feel isolated in the region.
Japan and Australia both have a watchful eye on China, and defence will be a key part of their talks, with broad agreements secured on a troop cooperation pact. Military exercises will also be discussed, including in the South China Sea.
Congratulations to your mask. I was expecting one with Olympic rings.
The Prime Minister also met the head of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, lobbying for Queensland in its 2032 Olympic bid.
The IOC's hopes to hold the Games with spectators in Tokyo next year are still in doubt, as is for now talk of a travel bubble between Australia and Japan. With COVID cases spiking again here, the country is focused on heading off a third wave.
And that is a wonderful news there, that the travel bubble between Australia and Japan. And of course, you can see the importance of that bilateral and the trade relation that the Prime Minister has made, even though it might be a 24-hour visit, but he did make that visit even during COVID to sign up that deal. And of course, it is wonderful to see that talks are still underway about the Olympics, which sort of seems to be in a bit of a doubtful situation, considering everything that's happening. And that's why it's in best interest of Japan to keep a very good industrial relation with all the international team so that, everyone supports the move. Well, right now, there's so many people who are isolating as COVID-19 cluster grows. So there's about 4,000 people. South Australia's chief health officer says 14 more people are suspected to have COVID-19 in the state, and about 4,000 people are close contacts who have been quarantined. Here's that report.
Prior to the 2nd of November, we did not have COVID in the state, but that's when it was introduced, this particular strain. So in addition or just as a summary, up until midday today, in terms of the numbers, we've got a total of 20 cases now linked to this cluster. But in addition to that, we have another 14 people who we are suspecting may be cases, and we are still doing testing to confirm that. But these are people that we feel are at high risk of becoming a case and have symptoms, and we're just waiting for that testing to come through. But because we want to be very, very precautionary and really work very quickly, that is the reason why we are calling them suspect cases. And we've put public health into action to make sure that we can contain it. So those people are either awaiting a test result or we have an initial test result that's negative, but we're highly suspect and we're retesting them. And the reason we're doing this, obviously, is because of this very high risk of onward transmission in our community. So around, I was asked yesterday, how many of these close contacts are in quarantine? We've now got around 4,000 people who are close contacts who are quarantined. And these people have been advised to quarantine, and they're being contacted on a daily basis for a symptom check. So this is a huge amount of work, as you can imagine, to make sure that we are in regular contact with these people.
And all the ones who have been in close contacts are being monitored, and of course it is a situation where everyone has to quickly gauge and assess the situation and sort of act accordingly. Well, what's happening in New South Wales under all this?
Health advice I got from Dr. Chant this morning is that we're confident the health authorities have the virus under control, but given there are more cases that will emerge today, we're just saying to people, please continue your essential travel. If you have special commitments you need to make, that's fine. But if you do have the option of delaying it for a few days, that you should. That's the best advice I've had from the health experts, and I have to follow that advice. But in terms of the borders, can I please stress, completely open. We're just saying to people, it's similar to what we would have said to people if we had an outbreak in southwestern Sydney. Don't move around too much in that community unless you have to. The health advice we're offering is no different to what we offer when there's an outbreak in New South Wales.
It's time now for Real Estate Update. With Wusha Chandra of GlobeNet Realty, real estate is our world.
Now we're standing here face to face, afraid to move or else.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's time for real estate update with GlobeNet Realty. And Usha, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Umesh, and good morning to our listeners and our viewers. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, I mean, there's not a lot that gets changed during a week, but of course, this is our weekly show, so we will provide updates of what's happening out there in the market. So what are the property signs showing, are they going down, or are they moving up, or what's happening in the market?
Yeah, definitely the property market is showing the upwards term. There are continuing signs that our property markets may have hit the bottom and are now moving from strength to strength. This week, the heat map shows that over the week, Australian property prices nudged a fraction higher, 0.1% so far this month, already matching the last month's performance. The time to buy a dwelling indicator from NAB Consumer Segment Survey rose to a highest level in 7 years. There are now a range of indicators suggesting that we have passed the bottom of the property cycle.
Right, so the consumer confidence has risen, and what about auction clearance rates and buyers coming into the market and some transactions?
Definitely the consumer confidence has risen very high. The auction clearance rates have been consistently strong, and in the major two big cities, Sydney and Melbourne, there are quite a few auction results. They are selling under the hammer and achieving very high prices under the hammer. And at the same time, the buyers are very happy as the interest rate has come as low as ever seen in the history, and a lot of new business transactions are happening as well. Plus a lot of home buyers who are renting before they are going into marketplaces and buying properties. That's why the property market has gone really high. There's very high demand of properties where the supply is not there. So that's why the confidence in market is really high, and the buyers are just grabbing the properties and paying higher dollars as they don't want to miss out on the properties as we have very limited stock.
Well, that's very well said, because when we look at the supply and demand, well, overall, let's take a very quick look at, say, Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane house prices and see what's happening. Are they moving upward, or what's happening there?
Exactly. The overall house prices in Sydney has crept a little bit high, 0.1%. Melbourne house prices are now on the move, and it shows it's gone by 3%. 0.3% over the week. So that shows that after the lockdown period is ending there, the confidence has gone high and the people are looking at buying more properties, and it has gone by 0.3% high. Whereas over in Brisbane, the prices are pretty high. The market's confidence is very high here, 0.6% over the last month, similar trends to the previous months of 0.5%. That shows that Adelaide, Perth and Darwin and Canberra, they're all going a little bit higher as well. Over this last 7 months, since the initial national restrictions were announced back in late March, prices are heroic. In 5 capital cities, index are down by only by modest 2.3%.
Well, that is a wonderful cross-section of all the cities, and very good stats that you provided there. So, but when we look at the buyer demands of the property, what are the early market indicators? What's the market indicating at this point in time?
At the moment, let's start with the number of indicators that could give us a clue to what's ahead. Buyer demand of properties fell slightly last week, but remains considerably high than a year ago. Showed by realestate.com's weekly report. The REA Insight Weekly Demands, which measures high intent buyers activity on realestate.com, that shows that it's slipped by minus 1.4% last week, following minus 4.1% fall over the previous weeks.
It's wonderful that you're covering both realestate.com and REIE because realestate.com covers from the real estate perspective, but REIE, Real Estate Institute of Australia, that's a very good index to look at as well. So well done. That's wonderful. So overall it's looking pretty good. So what about the lending and the borrowing, and so what's happening in that sector? People might be making some transactions, but how's the finance market in real estate terms?
Actually, the finance market is really good. The banks and the lenders are taking a little bit more time approving the finance because they're overloaded with the demand. And actually, it's just taking, we can't approve finance, they say, within 14 days. They want 21 to 30 days these days to approve the finance. It shows that the demand is quite high and they're overloaded with work from buyers who want to buy the properties, and they're looking for finance and more. The banks are flourishing in business at the moment because there's quite a bit of high demand of borrowers there.
Okay, so what about the rental market? What's happening in the rental market at this point in time?
The rental demand has hit historic high. In May this year, since it's fallen by 21.7%, it shows there's an increase of 24%, and Australian Capital Territory was minus 1.4%. Tasmania was minus 13.3% since the smallest overall fall in rental market from the peak, with New South Wales minus 29.4% and Western Australia seeing the highest declines. Despite rental demands being so much lower than its high record high, it remains 22.2% higher than it was last year.
Right. So that is pretty good overall. Looking at all the things that are happening out there, the rental moratoriums and everything like that. Now, what effect has all of this on the housing prices overall?
The housing prices have gone really high as a lot of investors are looking to buy into the marketplace. They're paying a little bit more dollars as there's quite a lot of shortage of residential properties for rental. So it shows that there's demand is quite high, whereas the supply is not that much in the marketplace. We are experiencing this multiple applications coming per property, and where we choose the best tenants for our landlords.
Okay, what about capital city home value changes? I know you gave us a very good insight last week, so has there been any movement this week's chart?
Definitely, there's a little bit of more changes in the weekly change. In Sydney, it was 0.1% high, whereas in the last 12 months was 0.6%. Melbourne market shows 0.2%, whereas overall was 0% in Melbourne. Brisbane market shows 1.1% and 3.3% in the last 12 months. So it shows Adelaide was 0.2%, whereas 4.6% in the last 12-month change, and Perth was 0.2%, and overall in the last 12 months was 0.4%.
Well, of course, you can't have sales unless you have listings. So what's happening with property listings?
Property listings, everybody is doing a lot of hard work these days, knocking on doors. We have just hired a telemarketer to do some telemarketing to get new listings. As you are aware that we had that competition which will end on 30th of November, giving $5,000 for going into the draw of $5,000 for all the properties listed in the last 3 months from which is ending on 30th of November, and the prize will be drawn in January next year, January. So we are allowing settlement time for the properties as well. So once the properties all that was listed in the last 3 months settles by January, we'll do the draw. And we are knocking on doors, offering a referral fee of $500 as well to as a spotters fee for some of our previous clients referring their friends, family to list and sell through us. So we're giving them $500 cash once that property is sold. So we are trying all avenues like door knocking, telemarketing, letterbox drops, and referral fee as well. So if anybody is watching and they have got friends or family who want to sell their property, please contact me on 0419 775 416 and we'll help them achieve their results.
So, do we have any stats on the number of properties listed?
Number of properties listed in the capital cities. Actually, in Sydney, there's an increase in listings, 6,851 listings, and the total listings were 21,000 overall in the last period. Melbourne has increased in listings as well, 7,587, and the total listings was 25,089. So the increase in the last 12 months shows there is minus 3.9%, still a bit down. Brisbane market shows that the listing was 3,883, and it has it's still down from last year. Adelaide is 1,887, minus 33.3%. Perth 3,825 listings, where was minus 20.6%. Hobart was 285. That a little bit show increase in Hobart from last week, and Darwin as well. There was 114 last week. There's another 5 new properties have come, so 119. Canberra has gone up a little bit, 738 new listings in the period.
Well, that's wonderful that we've got all the stats to go by every week, which is amazing. Now we have looked at the listings, we looked at sales. So when we look at the contracts that have been sent to solicitors, meaning the number of transactions, so what's happening in the number of transactions?
The number of transactions has increased a fair bit as well in Melbourne. Last week it was 1,604, and this week was 1,944 homes. So that shows the market has really increased. Whereas in the housing market, and the apartment and units were 907 compared to last week 778. So that shows the Melbourne market has increased a fair bit. Whereas in Sydney, 1,943 new homes, and last week was 1,722. There shows increase there as well, and apartment and units has increased as well. Last week was 946, and this week is 1,076 apartments that sold. Brisbane market has increased from last week as well. Last week was 921 properties, and this week is 1,191 houses and 267 apartments, which last week was 202 apartments, showing a strong demand in Brisbane market as well.
Wow, so that is quite good to see that there's a lot of movement still happening out there. Well, right now, capital city private treaty and medium prices. I think most of that has been covered in the last one, but if you would like to recap that.
Yeah, capital number of sales in Sydney was 1,943, and the medium price is 830,000, whereas in units and townhouses was 1,076, and average price is 647,500. Shows that the apartment and unit prices in Sydney is holding very well. Compared to the houses there, it's only a difference of less than $100,000. Melbourne prices was 1,944. Medium price is 685 for houses, and apartment is 565,000. Brisbane market 1,191, and the medium price is only 510,000 for the houses, and 267 apartments and units, and it's holding the price as compared to last week, 380,000. Adelaide was 668 number of sales, and the median price is 472,750, and there was 150 apartments, which is the median price is 338,000. Perth market is 1,068. Sales median price is 478,000, and 216 apartments, and median price is 352,500. Hobart was 175 in houses and 553,000. Shows the market is holding very well in Hobart, and 51 apartments or units, which is 435,000. Darwin was 32 houses and $475,000 is median price, and 14 apartments and units, and which is 300,000. And Canberra was 101 houses, and median price is 672,000, and apartments and units is 135 for 480,000 is the median value. So the combined capital values was the sales was 7,122 in houses, and compared to units and apartments was 2,816, and the median price for the houses was $640,144,000, and the unit and apartments was 542,846. So it shows only a difference of about 100,000 between units and houses.
Well, it is interesting that there is not a big difference in the price, but there's a big difference in the number of sales, 7,100 compared to 2,800.
Exactly right. Yeah, there's quite a lot of people prefer to buy houses because they like their little bit of yard and gardens, and especially with COVID period, we see a lot of people doing their home gardens, growing their own vegetables. A lot of people do still prefer houses than apartments and units.
Okay, so right now, because we are here in Brisbane, so what's been the change, when you compare quarterly to annual change in dwelling values in Brisbane?
Brisbane market is showing Brisbane dwellings values increased by 0.5% in October. That shows the graph is there. That shows quite a considerable demand there, and it has changed and increased in value. Dwelling values increased 0.9% over the quarter. Brisbane dwelling values are up by 3.5% in the past year. Brisbane dwelling values are currently at a record high. That shows that the demand is quite high, and the market brings really good dollars for the values of the property.
So when we look at Brisbane is quite big, so what's been, an overall result for Brisbane when you look at some of the median values and rental yields?
Actually, in the last 3 months, it was increased by 0.9%, and in the last 12 months was 3.5% increase in dwelling values, and average annual growth was high 1.2%. And the rental rates and yields, weekly rental for houses are $430 per week, and units in apartments are $400. So that shows only a difference of $30 per week between the houses and the apartments. So the gross rental yield was for houses 4.2%, and for units and apartments was 5.2%. So exactly, it shows that it's quite high in apartments and units. And so the selling time median values of $500,000 for houses, and the apartments is much less, 380,000. So it shows the increase in both the sectors, the houses and the apartments and units.
That's wonderful key stats that you have provided. Now, before I let you go, an overall and recap of Brisbane's property values.
Brisbane's property value remained resilient over the last year, especially given the economic impact of COVID-19. Price growth of Brisbane residential real estate has been more subdued in the lead up to the COVID-19 outbreak compared to Sydney, Melbourne, and in turn Brisbane only experienced a mild downturn, and property values have now been rising again over the last few months.
So what that says, or what you're trying to say there, is that in the lead up to the COVID, the Brisbane prices were subdued, but it didn't affect that much during COVID itself.
Not really, no. During the COVID period, our market was pretty good. I mean, though we were selling from homes, we had to close the office, but the demand was quite high. I mean, we were getting all the inquiries through realestate.com and on our phones and through emails. So yeah, the demand was quite high.
Okay, so the office did adapt to the new technological changes. So yes. And you have done quite well. So is there any open houses or house of the week that you'd like to discuss?
Yes, we have got a new listing which is at 24 Eaton Avenue, which is currently rented for $500 a week, and the tenants are being transferred to Canberra, the coal place. So the owners have decided to put it on the market. It's come on the market for $649,000. It's got 4 bedrooms, and a large study could be used as a 5th bedroom. And to beat the summer heat, we have got a sparkling in-ground pool in this property on 525 square meter block with 2.5 bathrooms, double lock-up garage, 3 living areas. It's a great investment. It's walking distance to Nudgee College. It's about 10-12 minutes to the airport and all other amenities. So we have got open house at 1 o'clock on Saturday at 24 Eaton Avenue in Boondall. So if anybody doesn't want to miss out on this house, that will be the first inspection and maybe the last inspection. So if you are interested in buying, come and see us at the open house on Saturday at 1 o'clock. The other one is in Kalinga. The property has been reduced by $10,000. I mean, it's a great investment property. The owners had it a little bit higher to see whether he could achieve more higher price. So we've dropped the price yesterday only, and it's 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, double garage. It will be a great investment. It's on 690 square meters. It's only a few minutes to the station, to the Rothwell station, the schools, the shopping centers in Keepering. So that's a very good value, and we have listed another new property for $650 at number 4 Heathwood Place, where I sold number 2 before, and the new owner, next door owner, has listed this property, but that won't be open this Saturday. But if anybody wants to buy that, it's got 4 bedrooms. It's a beautiful location, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, double garage. So the other thing I would like to say to all our viewers and our listeners, that we have got this competition still going. Another just over a week more left to go. So if anybody wants to sell their property, please contact us, and they will have a chance to go into the draw for $5,000, which will be ending on 30th of November. So come and see us and list and sell with GlobeNet Realty.
Thank you very much for that wonderful update, and thank you for also supporting White Ribbon, who's going to have their stall there on this Friday.
Yes, definitely. Our team members will be there supporting White Ribbon, and if anybody wants to come, we'll be in Tigum Shopping Centre from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock. So come and support White Ribbon Queensland and get more information so we can help the community.
Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you, Umesh.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
and real estate is the world, and that was a wonderful update there. Remember that on a weekly basis we bring to you the real estate update with GlobeNet Realty, and of course we also bring to you the weekly travel update with Oz India and Thanvi. So if there's anything that you'd like to discuss, anything that you'd like to be included in the show, you are quite welcome. Please contact us and we'll make sure that we incorporate that into the show. Well, right now, moving on with the news in brief. Right now, we saw, the Prime Minister is in Japan, and of course, we looked at the 4,000 people that are already in quarantine and the situation in South Australia. Well, right now, what's happening in Victoria? Well, they reckon that the borders still remain open.
So the border between South Australia and Victoria from South Australia into Victoria remains open. We've been requested by the South Australian Government to lend assistance with testing, particularly when it comes to the interstate freight movements, so as to free up capacity in Adelaide, and we're more than happy to do that. We'll be establishing a freight testing facility just west of Nil today. We'll be establishing it today, it'll be operating tomorrow, and then we'll roll out similar facilities across the border communities in coming days. And that's because the South Australian Government are throwing all the resources that they have to at this cluster, and they are doing an excellent job. And at the moment, our advice is they're doing everything needed to get ahead of this, and on that basis, the border remains open. We are, however, like the South Australian Government, requesting that all non-essential travel from South Australia into Victoria not go ahead.
And you're screening people as they come in?
We're screening people at the airports as they come in. If you've come from a nominated red zone in Adelaide, you are required to both test and isolate. If you're coming in from metropolitan Adelaide, you are requested to test. If you're coming in from regional South Australia, you're free to go. And of course that's accompanied by the authorised officer's powers to enforce those tests and restrictions.
So those restrictions that are in place there, well, of course, we now know we're coming very close to the holidays, and of course, people are planning to move about. Things are happening a little bit more in the travel agency, but there have been many travel agents who have been caught out, as this report says.
Months of closed borders has sent thousands of travel agents packing. Many have downsized or closed, and as borders remain closed, more could go under. The industry is calling on the federal government to back them with greater support. As Nasim Kadem reports, their survival could be crucial.
Miriam Henry was on a 5-month travel adventure when she fell sick in late March while in the UK.
About a week out from coming home, I started to get a small cough, which I thought was something I normally get in the winter.
Confirmed as COVID-19, Miriam's travel agent Linda quickly organised her flight back home.
For me, it's been extremely stressful. I thank Linda very much for making me come home, because I'm actually quite worried what would have happened to me had I been still in England.
Linda runs a mobile travel service from her home on the Mornington Peninsula. She relies on international travel bookings, so she's had to place her business in hibernation while she looks for another job. Many others have been unable to survive.
They've already left. I mean, people who have been in the industry since school, they've been in the industry 10, 20, 30, even 40 years.
Yes, beautiful, love that.
It's not just leisure travel that's been impacted. Penny Spencer runs a corporate travel agency in Sydney. She's had to close 2 shop fronts and run her business out of head office in Mascot.
Pretty much overnight, our business stopped. We had nothing to sell, so we were like a supermarket with nothing on their shelves.
She says thanks to her bank and JobKeeper, they're surviving. But if interstate travel doesn't start up again soon, they're in trouble.
Every day I wake up and think, what is today going to bring? Whether it's going to be another shutdown of a border or hopefully an opening of a border. you know, mentally it does take a toll on you.
A recent survey by the Small Business Ombudsman found that travel agents are barely surviving. Nearly all of them saw revenue plunge when COVID restrictions were introduced in March. And with travellers cancelling bookings and asking for refunds, travel agents lost their commissions and the cash dried up. ASX-listed companies like Flight Centre can still go to the market for extra cash, but it's also taken a huge hit, having to close more than 500 stores in Australia since the crisis.
We've had a significant downsizing, and obviously the staff to go with that as well. We've lost about 66% of our frontline staff.
Mr Turner says it'll take until June 2025 to get back to what they were earning before the pandemic. And while many small businesses will go under, once international travel resumes, the role of agents will be even more crucial.
I think it will reinforce the fact that you need a good travel agent in this sort of time to make sure that your travel is safe.
We're going to have to know what is required when someone travels to Italy and then wants to go to Germany. Do they need a COVID test to get into Germany?
Linda Foster says they need JobKeeper extended to survive the next few months.
We've been through crises before, you know, in the world. We've had Ansett, we've had SARS, we've had the GFC, we've also had 9/11. We've never asked the government for help, but now we really need the help.
If she survives, she can help client Miriam Henry off on her next journey.
I'm definitely going to go back to a few places of my big tour that I was on.
Her agent will be the one to help navigate a whole new world of travel post-COVID.
So that's the update on what's happening in the travel industry, which is in troubling waters at this point in time. Well, right now, time to go to some of the functions and events. And with functions and events, the first one we're going to talk about today is the upcoming Diwali function of FICQ. And with that, I'd like to welcome to the show Syam Das, the president of FICQ. And Syamji, namaskar.
Namaskar. With great pleasure and delight, the Federation of Indian Communities brings to you Diwali 2020. It's a festival of lights, festival of peace, happiness and joy. Diwali symbolizes victory of good over bad. Due to COVID, we are live streaming the entire program. Come and join us virtually and celebrate the festival and bring brightness in everyone's life. Have a wonderful Diwali. May the coming year be full of happiness, prosperity and peace for everyone. Namaskar.
Namaskar, and of course we know that Diwali is over, but the virtual Diwali, which will be taking place at the Brisbane City Hall and streamed live, and it will be a good event for people to connect into. As we know, we streamed our Diwali wishes, which was called Diwali Shubh Sandesh, right from this studio here, and that we did it on Diwali Day. And there's over 25,000 views so far. Thank you so much for everyone who's viewed it and all the wonderful comments and the feedback that we have got, and also for everyone who made it possible, all our artists who came and performed, Chanda Sanjeev, Manju, and of course Mithun Chakravarti and Bondita and the kids, they did an amazing job. And Sweta, whenever she comes in the studio, it becomes very, very lively, her presentation style, and I'd like to put on record our special thanks to her. Well, right now let's take a look at other functions and events taking place. Some of them might be taking place virtually. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another presentation of Chantex Multimedia. It's been wonderful having your company, and do apologize for not being on the Australian Indian Radio homepage at this point in time. We're having a bit of technical issues with Facebook, and if you can go on Facebook and you can see so many people are in that same situation where, you know, some things that are beyond our control, and because their response time always takes. But nevertheless, we are streaming and you are able to view our stream. That's the main thing, and it is wonderful to get that kind of support from the community where people are willing to share and allow our stream on the groups. So there are many groups. So, you know, the main idea of a group or inviting someone to join a group is that people can share their functions, events on those groups. Of course, you know, as long as it's not hate speech, and if it goes against the community standards and other things, that's understandable. But, you know, if you form a group, you should allow people or your members to post on that. Otherwise, don't get the members there, because it is not only that you get members and that you can post things to the members, but you don't allow members to post things. So, you know, the groups are for people as a common sharing platform where, you know, the members of that group can share information with each other, which is relevant to each other, which is of community, of interest, and which has news segments and other things like that. Of course, plain out selling their own product or other things might be a bit different, but yeah, of course, every group has their own rules. Well, it's been wonderful having your company. Until tomorrow, enjoy the rest of the day, but most importantly, stay safe. Till tomorrow, it's goodbye from me.